if you could bear with me for a bit of a lengthy introduction, because this bears a lot of context, especially as we close the summit. For me personally, it's a great reunion to be with all of you. It's been 10 years since the last Asia 21 fellowship that I attended, with the best cohort, if not the oldest cohort. Ching is part of that, so you already know the pedigree of that cohort. It's also a great reunion of friends, some people I haven't seen for a while, including our special guest, Dr. Chetri, who I actually had the privilege of interviewing when I was at Bloomberg 2 years ago. It's also 50 years since the great Robert Kennedy actually presaged this movement towards happiness, and I would like to paraphrase a very landmark quote that he made that should frame our discussions today. He said, "The gross national product counts air pollution and cigarette advertising, and ambulances to clear our highways of carnage. It counts special locks for our doors and the jails for the people who break them. It counts the destruction of the forests and the loss of our natural wonder in chaotic sprawl. It counts weapons and the TV programs which glorify violence in order to sell toys to our children. Yet, the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry, or the strength of our relationships, the intelligence of our public debate, just like we're having here, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion or our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. So 50 years hence, you have a tiny kingdom of Bhutan, led by its king, who was humble enough to make that transition from a monarchy selflessly into a working parliamentary democracy, which is not without its birth pains, as Dr. Chetri was kind enough and candid enough to say. So in this age, where authoritarianism and the dark strains of it are sweeping many nation states, especially here in Southeast Asia and Asia, and yet the personal can trump the political, Dr. Chetri, who has made his own transition from the Gross National Happiness Center to one teaching personal happiness, is here today to share with us that journey and the journey that can make us all truly happy with the lessons that he's learned from his life and from the studies he's made. Dr. Chetri, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I think we should, as I heard that everyone had a beautiful evening, you must be very tired, so let's sleep this morning. Begin with our sleep. Can you please sit straight with your back straight, legs grounded, eyes closed, hand resting on your thighs in any form that you like, but your shoulders must be relaxed. Back straight, chin slightly tucked in, eyes closed, shoulders relaxed, okay? Take a deep breath in and follow your breath as you breathe in. Feel the stomach rise. As you breathe out, follow the breath out. So constantly keep your mind in breathing in and breathing out. As you breathe in, imagine yourself as the morning dew rolling on the petal of a lotus, shiny, integrated, full of light. Imagine that as you. Integrated because of the right understanding, right thoughts, right efforts you make, right actions, right livelihood, right intentions and views. You're shiny there, shining not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. Breathing out, imagine yourself as the lotus that has grown out of all the filth and the dirt, as beautiful as it sees. You have also grown out of the filth like ignorance, pride, greed, jealousy. So breathe in and imagine yourself as the morning dew. Breathe out and imagine yourself as the beautiful lotus flower. And follow your breath in and out. If your mind is floating away, bring it back to your breathing in. Imagine as a dew. Breathing out, imagine as the lotus flower. Thank you. You can slowly open your eyes, filled with love and compassion as you look onto us. And maybe massage your hands if you're stuck a little bit. Okay. If you Google what is the way to happiness, you would immediately get in 48 seconds something like 650 million. If you just write happiness, you'll not be able to count. So it looks like that happiness is the order of the day. That's how I take it. The way to happiness, Thich Nhat Hanh said, happiness is the only way. In other words, you cannot find happiness outside of you. You have to be happy to find happiness. With that, a time when Buddha was living on this planet, a man went to him and said, he was very distressed, and he said, I want happiness. And Buddha looked at him with compassion and love and said, I is an ego, drop it. Want is a desire, drop it. What's left with you? So of course, happiness. So happiness is something that is within. And not only within, we'll also talk a little bit on this, it's also between and among. So how do you create that avenue? But I have 3 questions to ask before I proceed. And I want the answer in yes or no. First question is, do you want to be happy? Yes? Do you think others want to be happy? Great. The third question is, do you think others want you to be happy? That may be very few, the people who would say that. This is simply because, in Sanskrit they say Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It means that the whole world is my family. We forget to look at with that attitude anymore. And then we begin to suffer simply because we try to be ourselves. If you see the next slide, I hope it comes, yes. This is my formula that I have invented very recently. And I say love is actually, it stands for live on values that we've been talking yesterday, every day. So live on values every day. But on it, there are 4 pillars. I call them RICH, R-I-C-H. R stands for relationship, I for integrity, C for compassion, and H for humanity. Now, how do you create relationship? Yesterday I also commented that unless you balance consideration and courage, you can never create a win-win situation. If you have higher courage and lower consideration, you will win the other guy. It's vice versa. And if you are low in consideration and low in your courage, you're going to lose. It will be a lose-lose situation. And there's out there plenty for everybody, but it's the greed that makes us drive to win over others. So how do you create relation is through creating your own circle of influence. And that when your concerns are less, you tend to create your influence higher. You tend to get into the public victory domain. You need to cooperate, synergize your energies together with others. And then, like we talked about, you should be able to listen. Listening is a very powerful technique, and I think we also talk about feedbacks and all that. And if you don't have the energy to do so, we are always in conflict. I give you some examples. One is that often happens between wife and husband, or husband and wife, whatever. And also when a politician is speaking to you, you quickly assume things. Like what happens when you know a person deeply, you tend to listen very little. In other words, you download yourself. What you have in your memory, you begin to download, and you assume the rest of the sentence that the person would like to speak on. So it's listening, downloading, listening to yourself. The second kind of listening is factual listening. When facts and figures start to come, then you listen at a deeper level. Then the third kind of listening, and it's called I in it. Then the third kind of listening is called empathic listening, I in you. I step into your shoes and completely try to listen and understand each and every word. If you are in a habit of listening to facts and empathic listening, if you cultivate those habits, then you are a regenerative listener, which means you listen to the future very easily. There are, we're talking to the young leaders. Within your own scope of work, there are people, leaders. You are probably leader by your rank, by your definition of holding a portfolio, but there are leaders out there who could be a receptionist, who influences your company, influences others. They could be a guard outside who is also an influential person, who should be a leader considered. But how many of us really go out to create those kind of relationship? I don't think we generally shake hands with lower cadre people, we probably nod and just walk away. To give you a very stupid example, a rich man wanted a car to his taste, and the car was a bit higher than the rest of the production that the company would do. When it was supposed to come out, it was like 2 inches taller, and the engineer said, "Oh, we'll break the roof, take it out and put it back. Or we will, take the tires out and, put it on something and pull it out, and we'll refix them." And there was this guard looking at them, they were struggling how to take this car out of the door, it's 2 inches tall. And he said, "Can I speak something?" And they said, "Yeah, what do you want to speak, as a guard?" He said, "Can we not, deflate the tires by 2 inches and drive out?" Solutions you can always find to create relationship better if you are in conversation with all kinds of life. Second one is integrity, I, of the rich. And that's, you need to be very proactive in your ways, in your doings. Imagine yourself that you're celebrating 80 years of your birth, birth date. You have invited your family, parents, your children, your community, your neighbors. You also have a letter from the leader of that day. What is that you want to really hear from them? Because the time that we use is really horrible today in this in our context. 28 years we're sleeping only. 10 years we're chasing for more and more to earn for ourselves. About 9 years of our lifetime we're using in our home chorus, washing, doing different things at home. 6 years of our life we're busy in grooming ourselves and educating. 6 years of other life we are busy in eating and drinking only. It's 2 years of our life we are only commuting, getting jammed in a traffic like in Manila. 2 years of our life we're shopping only. It's only 1.5 years of our life which we give to the children who we call the future of the nation. Look at this. With 2 years we spend on shopping and we only give 1.5 years to our children. Is that really fair? Now, keeping in mind what you want to listen, hear on that 80th birthday of yours is the journey for you need to take now. And that is where you need to be very integrated towards using your time properly for family, balancing really your time. Not that you are now retired, you just have 8 to 10 years of your life and you begin spending all that you earn in 10 years to self-cure yourself and to live better for the next 10 years of your life. I think we can do that right here and now. So this is a journey that I encourage you to come up with. Don't try to build personality. Personality will ruin you, but try to build character, and character will always carry you forward to where you want to be. C is compassion. We often say, compassion is important, but what do we really mean by compassion? If you are compassionate to yourself, then only you can be compassionate to the rest of others. Compassion arises when you know who you are, because we are not what we think we are. We often say I, me, myself, but if you deduct now that 75% of your body is water, if you don't honor the water, then you are not yourself. The food that you eat, that's grown by minerals of the soil, the sun, the air, all this has brought us this growth here. So when you're compassionate to yourself, meaning to all these elements, then only you know yourself better, and then you can also have others in the journey as compassionate, as being very compassionate to them. We often talk about self-esteem, but self-esteem it can bring you down, on the Maslow's hierarchical, that it's on the top, but you are not always there. There's always a challenge for you to, not to arrive, because then you become very depressed, very sad, very difficult. Your life becomes really very difficult. H is for humanity. I just give you one quick example. 3 years ago, I had the honor to speak to the British Parliament. So when I flew out of Delhi, after the general announcement, the first announcement that came on board was that if you donate, it was an advertisement of an NGO, if you donate £1, you'll feed very cold and hungry child in remote England. And I thought I heard wrong. So I fished out of the pocket to read that, and it was true. Then I thought about the British Empire, where the sun never set. They made a lot of wealth out of it. Then I thought of my little country, Bhutan and Britain, in terms of wealth. And I thought, we are not even 100,000th part of what Britain has in terms of wealth. But I felt very rich as a very little country with just $2 billion as our annual GDP. I felt very rich because we do not have children that suffer hunger and cold. If we see, my Bhutanese colleague here will confirm, if we see a hungry and cold child, the first thing that we do is become responsible towards that until we find a solution. So that made me feel very, very rich. And I think that's what we miss, the whole point in our lives. Oh, is it not shaking? Oh, okay, happiness. So, our minds actually is divided all the time. We don't see things as they are. We quickly divide good, bad, beautiful, ugly. But if we learn to see things as they are, and if you learn to be yourself, who you are, you will always live in a non-dualistic state of mind. And it's proven that, there was a study, 20 years old study done in America. They looked into 3 things. Sex was one, the other one was meditation, and the third one was to feel, not to live with a non-dualistic feeling. And they found that on a scale of 0 to 10, sex takes you up to 8.5, but that's momentary for a short period of time. Meditation takes you 9.5 out of the scale of 10. But if you are in a non-dualistic, state of mind, then you are scoring 10 out of 10. And that is what we think that all Buddhists do. They try to believe that they are not who they are. They try to live with the concept of that I am not myself, but I am you. And you are, the nature. I'm the nature. Nature is in me. So when you are able to dissect yourself to every extent of this, quantum physics now also proves that 91% of frog genes are in us, 90% of chimpanzee genes are in us, 70% of banana genes are in us, 46% of fruit fly genes are in us. You can name all animals and all planets, all their genes are constituted in us. That's why when we are very depressed or sad, you go to the nature or you go out to the ocean side, you'll immediately have a calming effect because your organisms quickly connect with them. That's why I think one of the Indian friend has a journey to take to the forest to cure there. And this is reality, that if you're connected with nature all the time, you'll always be happy, you'll always be feeling great. Funny it is, but Hong Kong has the longest life span. And they're one of the most, they call themselves, very depressed population. But you know why they're living so long? It's simply because whichever tower they are on, they have connection with the ocean directly. And that's the bigger part of the life. So if you are having a view of the waters or the forest, it'll always bring you this calming effect in your life. So talking about, we'll do some exercise a little later. Talking about, happiness within, it's true. It's a choice for all of us to be happy or not to be happy. We say, oh, he angered me, or we got very angry. This morning, somebody told me that he was very angry. and this morning was going to be a happiness class or talk. I do not want to name unless you would do it. I think no one can anger you. It's a choice. The moment you do not participate with whatever comes to you, you'll never be angry. Of course, this doesn't mean that we cannot have anger. But when you learn, the moment anger arises, you quickly close your eyes, take 1 or 2 deep breaths, and say, I'm getting angry. And then you find, quickly you calm down. Because the moment you recognize what's happening, you come over it. So happiness is not outside of us. The problem starts when we start to get more and more. You have a goal, you follow, and you start to create chemicals in your body, and you become happier, happier. But when that's finished, again you want another. So it's like on a treadmill. It's a hedonic happiness that you continue to get one, another, there's no end. And this happens mostly in the material side of our lives, chasing for more material things. But if you chase for your own self, be yourself, all the time, that would be the answer for you. Learn to forgive others. Learn to forgive yourself. Learn to live with right intentions. That's very important. And be yourself. Don't compete. Don't compare with others. Compete with yourself. What you did yesterday, think about it. What did I do yesterday? What can I do better today? So that you head towards the 80 years of your birthday, how you want to be there. So don't compete with others. The moment you compete with others, you are not yourself. You are them. If you compare with others, you are them. You're not yourself. Just to give you an example, maybe yesterday you had a gala party. Maybe you had a dress code. Then quickly you think, what kind of dress should I wear? My friend, what dress she or he will wear? I should be better or at least same. You're comparing with that and you're not living your life. Learn to live yourself. Be yourself all the time. You'll find happiness deeply within. I think I'll just go to my last one, but the last slide here. I found out 3 years ago when I had the opportunity to talk to the World Happiness Summit in Miami. I realized that psychologists talk about 4 chemicals that are required for us to be happy all the time. And suddenly I realized that the first words of these chemicals form into a dose. So I named them as dose of happiness. D stands for dopamine, O stands for oxytocin, S for serotonin, and E for endorphin. If you produce these 4 chemicals in your body all the time, you tend to be happy all through. Now the first three chemicals you can produce just by a hugging meditation, which I want you to do right here. Now, D, dopamine, you get, it's more goal-oriented chemical. So you just can get it by giving loving kindness to yourself and to the other that you're hugging. Oxytocin is more to be together, touching, hugging, that's more being cuddling kind of a hormone. And serotonin is more importance-oriented, more significance-oriented. That you can gain by being grateful to others, grateful to the people, to the systems, to whatever. Then endorphin, you have to have 30 minutes of sweating exercise. So if you sweated in the morning, you would have enough for the day, probably. And the other 3 you can get just by hugging meditation. So let's do that hugging meditation before we sing our happiness song. I have written the guide there, but why don't you stand up and find a friend on your left or right? And please listen, please listen. Put your left heart with the left heart of the other person. Don't have a gap between the two. Don't have a gap between the two. If you are taller, please bend down. Put your chin on each other's shoulders. I'll guide you what to do. I'll guide you what to do. Please continue. Now, yes. Please. Left to left heart. Put your chin on each other's shoulders. No gap between your. Put one leg forward. Don't step onto. Yes, exactly. So, if you are taller, bend down a little bit so you touch your heart. Very important. Now close your eyes. Put your chin on the shoulder of the other person. Close your eyes. Breathe in 3 times together, in and out. In that 3 breathing in and out, send loving kindness to the friend you are hugging. Say, be well, be happy, be safe. And also say, thank you that we share the same space and time. So be grateful and do it 3 times, okay? When you finish 3 times, squeeze a little tighter for 20 seconds. Please don't leave. 20 seconds. Squeeze tighter for 20 seconds. You did wrong. You two did wrong. Left to left. Left to left, my dear. Yes. Squeeze tighter for 20 seconds, okay? And rapidly send one word of loving kindness or gratitude. Say, I love you, I love you, I love you, or thank you, thank you, thank you, whatever comes to your mind. Okay? And you'll realize after you release each other, just bend down, you bow down to each other and say thank you. You'll feel great. If you did this every day with your family, with your children, your wife, husbands, I guarantee you'll be happy all the time. Okay, before the question answer comes, let's sing our happiness song. So my gratitude is there for all of you in the yellow part. So let's sing the happiness song. And I would really want you to pick this song up and sing every time you want, because everyone, if I ask now, you'll have different meanings for all these words. They are very simple, stupidly simple. I still get calls from US saying, oh, I now understand your song after 3 years. So don't worry about not understanding, but try and find the meaning in this song and sing every day. Let's do it. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, and I'm not in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Somewhere to go, something to do, but I'm not in a hurry. This should be your mantras every day. But what I would like you to do now is, why don't you hold hands? Maybe get into a big circle, hold hands, and swing with the song. Let's do it one time more. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, and I'm not in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Somewhere to go, something to do, but I'm not in a hurry. Say, hey. Hey. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can hug each other and go back to your seats.
I almost feel we shouldn't continue the rest of the day. We should quit while we're ahead, right? But Dr. Chetri, thank you so much. Your wisdom beggars description. For me personally, it's been an honor to see you again. But more importantly, to witness the fact that you've gone from thinking about this gross national happiness, which is very, very big and hairy, but at the same time now getting into personal happiness. And I guess I wanted to bridge those two divides, especially for our young leaders here who are in positions of leadership, whether the public sector, private sector, social enterprise, and they feel that strain and burden of the daily task, but also, as I mentioned earlier, the encroaching shadows of authoritarianism and populism and threats to the rule of law. How does the personal trump the political in terms of making happiness your beacon in these troubled times?
Well, I think like what I started with, it's so very important to be yourself. Not to connect with troubles around. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aware of. But the moment you're connecting with all these problems, upheavals that's happening, you'll tend to be unhappy all the time. All the time. So be yourself and have right intentions. Try to do things that's required to be done. But do not kill yourself to do something that's beyond your own powers. Have those good intentions like what Arnold did. He had a great intention to bring happiness for people here in BCG. And he worked his way through. He did not dishearten himself. There were ups and downs for him, but he remained himself as humble and to the character that he was born to. The moment you begin to compare and compete, that's where we fall prey to all sufferance on earth. So avoid those things and be yourself. That's what I would like to say.
Eloquent in its brevity. Thank you very much, Dr. Chetri. I feel like as a moderator in front of a group of peers and leaders themselves, I'm standing in the way of that. So the best way to moderator to work is just facilitate the flow of great questions from a great audience. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to you. I'm sure you have many questions and insights, especially after the way we started this morning. So kindly introduce yourself and your questions for Dr. Chetri. Yes.
Thank you so much for this. I have a question. I work in some conflict zones, people who are living through war. And I'm just wondering, how do you really find happiness when death and all of that is around you? And I'm sorry to bring the conversation down, but I really want to take something away for the work that I do. So if you can just help me a little bit.
Thank you. Well, I've never been to a conflict zone, nor have I served there. But I think, the very important thing is to understand what happiness really means. Happiness can be very individual, very fleeting, very momentary. But this is not the happiness you should tag yourself as the concept of happiness. Happiness has to be serving others, what you're doing, living in harmony with nature, the environment around you. That's another very important thing. And helping people realize their inner potential of who they are. Of course, you will tone down with a lot of episodic things, with a lot of turmoils, traumatic challenges that you would come across. But this doesn't mean that they're not going to be happy, because every human being has organically, biologically, that we are made to carry both of these feelings of, sadness as well as happiness. Now you need to overcome is the coin that you need to flip over to happiness. And what you find journey depends on in what situation you are. Of course, when it is traumatic and things like that, the best thing is to take them away from their journey from being forgetful. It means not to live in the past and not to live in the future, but let them learn to live now and here, who they are, what they are at the present moment. The moment you begin thinking about the past, what happened, you're going to be in turmoil all the time. But the moment you make them realize that that is dead and gone, think as a bad dream and let it go. And now think about be grateful that you have your life. What can you do better? Today is going to come to you tomorrow. But don't think about tomorrow too. Put your work, efforts today, now and here. Because we don't know whether we will be seeing tomorrow or not. But if we do see and don't work today, then we'll never see that tomorrow again. So how do we, try to bring them in this concept of being present? That will help you. Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Pradeep. I'm from Nepal. It's a very pleasure to listen this morning to you. My question is, most of the time my happiness depends on others. For example, early morning, I used to go office, and then when I reach in road from home, and then I see traffic jam, so my happiness gone. And when I reach office and I'm not getting my report on time, so my happiness always lost. So every time my happiness depends on others. So how can I control that? So.
Well, like I said, be yourself.
It's real practical questions
Yes,
every day I'm facing.
Sure, I understand. But tell me something. By being angry, unhappy, do you achieve that? You don't. So why do you want to be unhappy? Why do you want to worry when you can't achieve it? It's very simple, to me. If your intentions are right, that's very important. Your thinking, thoughts are right. Your understanding is right. But why do you want to be angry or unhappy because someone does not fulfill their duty? The most you can do is invite that person and say, how can I help you? That you complete your duty on time. That way, you help get your work done better. Rather than getting angry on him saying, why did you not finish today? You were supposed to do it today. He must have his own problems. And the moment you understand his problems, it'll help you to also calm down, and it will help him do better. So traffic jams. Here in Manila yesterday, after a great lunch with Gina Lopez, it took me 2.5 hours to be back to the hotel. And I was thinking, Christmas is coming. There will be a lot of traffic jams, I suppose. Maybe you can, celebrate Christmas on the road. Come out of the car, say, hi friends, how are you? Happy Christmas. Make use of your time. Don't get jittery, don't fret, because if you fret on the Kathmandu road, how are you going to help yourself and others? You'll only bother yourself. But just look out and think, how can you help them move faster? Or what can you do by sitting there? Try to look after yourself. I have a great opportunity now to meditate, to think about how my body feels, to realize that I'm not well. It's an opportunity. Take it as an opportunity. That time, don't lose it just fretting, Take an opportunity, take deep breaths in, out, meditate. It'll help you grow better in life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been a very interesting session. And I wanted to ask a question based on, you were talking about meditation and mindfulness and such things. I wanted to ask you how you incorporate prayer in your life and whether you differentiate between prayer and meditation. And I'd actually be curious if you didn't mind to share your method of prayer, because I think this is something, at least in America, where prayer can be a very controversial subject in the public forum. But I was curious from your perspective what you thought of prayer, particularly in comparison to meditation, and how you incorporated it in your day-to-day life.
All right, thank you for asking that question. That touches my heart, in fact. Meditation, people take it very differently. They think that to sit quietly and to close your eyes and listen to your breathing or visualization is meditation. No, it's not. Meditation, when you're even eating and you're present with what you're doing, you're meditating all the time. Sitting meditation is a quiet meditation, and that you can do in various forms. One is breathing in, breathing out. The other is visualization. The third is gazing meditation. The one that you refer to is sound meditation. Meditation can be done through prayers as well, but you have to understand the meaning of each word that you recite. If you don't understand, it's useless. The moment you understand what you're reciting, your brains are going to create pathway according to what you understand. And that's going to help you transform yourself. So prayers are a very important part of meditation if you take it in that form. But don't go for prayers that you don't understand. I know many people rhyme Vajrayana, texts, prayers, but they don't understand what it all contains, So it's no point unless you find the meaning of those words and then pray. It's a great meditation. Prayer is a great meditation. It's a sound meditation. And you can also, a simple one that we can all try is very simple, ah, oh, and These three syllable, whatever you call them, words, actually form a om. Om comes from these three words. When you say ah, take a deep breath in and say ah, you are activating this part of chakras, 3 chakras here. When you say oh, you're activating this part of the chakra, the 2 chakras here. And when you say you're activating this. Let's try 3 times, Why don't you sit in the meditative posture like I described, with your feet grounded, your back straight, your chin little tucked in, hands resting on your lap, shoulders relaxed, eyes closed. Take a deep breath in and then make the sound ah, and feel the stomach part when you sing ah. Take a deep breath in again. Say oh, and feel the chest part. Take a deep breath again. Again, take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath again. One last time. Take a deep breath again. Take a deep breath again. Take a deep breath again. If you do every day 9 times in the morning, you'll feel yourself how rejuvenated you become. Thank you.
I have a question. Dr. Chetri,
We'll take the one right and then center and left.
Okay, thank you very much for the sharing. It's really beautiful. Actually, about the 4 layers of listening, I've been learning about the U theory. It happens that it's been mentioned in that as well. I'm not sure if you know about U theory. Anyway, so in that theory, it also mentions that there are 3 layers of opening. There's opening mind, open heart, and open will. For me, the biggest enemy personally, I think the biggest enemy for happiness is not anger. I find it fear. So I would like to ask if you can share with us some really practical methods to overcome fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't fear, so I don't know how to overcome that. That's a beautiful question. In fact, it's true. Greed is one and fear is another one that actually takes toll onto our happiness. Fear is something that we often fear letting go. That's the biggest fear we carry. Or fear of death. Which fear are you referring to? Letting go or death? Because general, okay. Death, like I just spoke, that we are not what we think we are. We are the elements. 2/3 of our body is water. Rest is all elements of this planet through the food that we eat. It's only 0.1% of the genes that we carry from our 0.1% of the genes that we consist in body we carry from our ancestors. So when we die, we don't die. We only change our life form. We go back to the source. We are never dead because our genes, that 0.1% is in our family, in others. So we take an example, the sun hits the ocean, the vapors come up, go into the sky, form into clouds. The clouds moves, and then they strike somewhere and fall, come back as the rain. They form into small rivulets, get into a small stream, to a small river, to a bigger river, back to the ocean. When did the water die? Life has exactly the same form. We will never be dead. We'll always be reborn again and again in the elements that we live. So why fear? When we know that we don't die, why fear? Our consciousness, that people say energy, consciousness, atma, soul, all that name they give, is never dead. It's believed that, that's why we say don't think bad, don't speak bad. That gets into becoming a habit, a character, and a destiny. Simply because it lives in the soul. Do you believe in rebirth? Bhutanese, we believe very much in rebirth. And I think most Buddhists do. And the Christians also do believe in rebirth. Otherwise, Jesus would not be born, would not be known how he would be born from Mary, far away in Bethlehem. So the word itself, reincarnation, is a word, English word. And if there's no rebirth, why would that word come? I think all cultures across believe in this rebirth. So in other words, that this consciousness lives. But this body is the elements, so it goes back to the element. We are never dead. Again, that soul will come to somebody in some other form in a womb, and you are back again. So you're never dead. So there's no need to fear. And then you must learn to let it go. First thing you have to accept that this is happening. The moment you accept, then it becomes easy for you to let it go. And the moment you let it go, there's no fear. Yeah. So when fear arises, close your eyes, take 2-3 deep breaths in, Even when you are stressed, just do 3 times. I tell you, how many of you would be smoking here? You can also stop smoking by this very small exercise. Breathe 5 times. Breathe 5 times, deeply in and out. When an urge comes, take a deep breath in and out, 5 times. The urge goes. The moment you have another urge, do the same. 5 days, on the 6th day, it's gone. You don't have the urge. Try. It'll work as a magic. So breath, everything is breath.
Sorry, we have, actually, create the band, 3 questions. One here, one there, and then you're next.
Okay. Morning, Dr. Chetri. So, in Buddhism, we have right livelihood is one of the steps to enlightenment. But today in modern society, we also have this concept of work-life balance, as if work and life are 2 separate things. So, what is your perspective on the connection between work and happiness?
You see, I think this is the disjoint that we carry. We think life and work are 2 different things. But if that is 2 different things, then why do you take work? Work, 8 hours of work, as we talk in gross national happiness, is very important part of your life. Don't work more than 8 hours, don't work less than 8 hours. So if anyone works more than 8 hours, he gets a negative score. If he or she works less than 8 hours, also gets a negative score. We try to say that work is an important part of your life. The moment you take work as a part of your life, it's all in happiness. But the moment you take as an outside of you, that is not a part of you, then you are always distressed. Because you're doing for somebody else, for something else. It's not doing for yourself. But if the moment you take work as doing for yourself, then happiness is with it. It's not different, I suppose.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy that you are making us happy. I'm Muhammad Sabir from Pakistan. So I work with Gypsy and Nomads. For me, seeking of happiness is a little bit very conflicting. Because when I'm happy, I see around 2 other families and people unhappy, and where there's continuous injustice and inequality around me. So sometimes feel just being selfish to being happy, and my happiness doesn't have any meaning if I cannot relate with the other human beings. And for me, it's become like a commodity which I have to chase. And it questioned me like, do I need to be happy or do I need to share the grief? And how can I be happy if I cannot empathize with them? And what is the role of empathy in that? And why we are so much happiness driven. Thank you.
Deeply, if you realize that the ultimate goal of every human being is to be happy, I fully understand you that when your community is unhappy, when there is so much of inequity, you are unhappy. But what does happiness mean? Is it to laugh around, to giggle, and just throw yourself out? That's not happiness. Happiness is when you're calm in your heart, when you're calm in your mind, when you have compassion in your heart, and you are yourself. That's happiness. And when you have happiness, you can do more for others because you become very compassionate. And you go out of your way to do more, to serve others more. You see? So happiness is not laughing around and jumping around and giggling. And that's not happiness. Happiness is to be very calm in your mind and in your heart, to be at peace with yourself, and have compassion in your heart. When you make that compassion as your temple in your heart, then you tend to do much more things for others. And when you do work for others, science has proven volunteer for others, you live longer and happier than your own peers. So you tend to do more than the time that you have. Maybe you'll sleep less, 1 hour less. You will maybe spend 1 hour less in eating. Maybe you'll spend 1 hour, less in doing some in social media or something. Then you take that time out to help them. Because when you go out to help them, you can bring happiness to them as well. So it's more serving others rather than just being happy yourself and moving around, wearing good clothes, driving big cars. No, that's not happiness. Happiness, you need to find what is the definition of happiness. And to me personally, is to be calm, to be at peace, and to have compassion for everybody. And that compassion starts only when you are compassionate for yourself. Because when you're compassionate for yourself means you consider every little detail around you, including others. And it's very important that others have to be happy if you are to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you for your good story and also the good singing. So I like that. So I'm Keiko Yamamoto from Japan. So I'm a news reporter, and I worry about our children. So in Japan is such a long life country, but the most cause of death of younger generation is commit suicide. And I feel that lack of self-confidence of children is very big issue in Japan. So how can I'd like to know how can we face to the children, and do you have any a method, or could you tell me?
Okay, this is a very important question. In fact, I was in Hong Kong 2 years ago, and I realized that children, when they are 6 years of age, when they get into school, they have to write their CV, that they know how to sing or they know how to play a musical instrument. The pressure from the parents is so much. And also the environment is so much that by the age they are 12 to 14, they are so depressed, they get into antidepressant drugs already. And this is not common to just Hong Kong, but it's common to throughout the world. And now you speak about Japan. I think the value that the parents have to live with is very important. If there are, both parents working, it's a duty of the parent, one of them to stay home, to give right values to the child. Okay? It's very important, because if you cannot do that, then you will have that child also getting into competition and comparing. These are the two words you have to avoid from children when they're young. Now, I tell you something, from the birth till the age of 8, if you can give the child the best of best values, that child will live rest of her or his life with those values. There's no doubt about it. But how do you give these values to this child? If both parents go to work and you leave a child with a nanny or to an early learning center, what values are they going to give? more than competition and comparing. So it's a responsibility of the parents. Like I just spoke about the time use. We only tend to give 1.5 years of our lifetime to our child, who we think is the future. And you kill that child because he or she will commit suicide. Is it not the responsibility of the parents? And you need to base not only values in the homes, but it also needs to be carried in schools. Schools, education makes us today very competitive, very selfish, and we need to change education. Why, what, all this? Now, yesterday we were listening to AI, artificial intelligence. Very soon, in maybe next generation, all of us will become part of the machine because machine will guide us. Where is the thinking of, where is the feeling of human beings? We need to remain ahead of all this. Unless we are capable to do that, we'll be swallowed by this modernization, so-called modernization. So 2 things you need to remember. 1, give value to the child at home. B, one parent must stay back to look after the child. If you dare have a child, then don't leave at the hands of others. Take care of the child. Second thing, try to bring a change in education system. That's very important. If you can't bring change in education system, the competition will carry on. Try to get the inner potential of a child and make the child what the child is born for. Because all of us has something different in us. I did a PhD in microfinance, but I don't want to talk about the subject. I don't remember anything about commerce anymore. Now I talk about happiness. Maybe that was my inner potential that I forgot to look for when I was young. Now I realize this. Those subjects that I have studied, I don't even use 1% of what I studied. So try to bring the inner potential of a child out and help that child grow with that potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chetri. These are continuing conversations, and I know we have the rest of the day to follow, but I certainly want to thank you for your wisdom sharing with us. We were all transformed by this, really rich and dense hour. I will only add one thing as the moderator here, is that one of my favorite authors said that true happiness is the longing for repetition. So I hope that these rituals that you shared with us today and the connections we've made today will always be refreshed with keeping in touch and, more importantly, practicing true happiness. Thank you very much, Dr. Chetri, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.